Welcome to our press conference about river safety and, more importantly, the larger picture of water safety overall. I have several people standing behind me and representatives from Cleveland Division of Police, the U.S. Coast Guard, Lake Carriers Association, the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, Port of Cleveland will all come up and give an aspect from their perspective on water safety. And so I'm going to turn it over to Captain Simon at this time from Cleveland Division of Police, who will be kicking it off. Thanks.
Good morning. Lake Erie and the Cuyahoga River are a great asset to Northeast Ohio. The river has a long history with the city and the region, from beginning with industry, fostering growth, creating jobs for the people of Cleveland and the region. It then developed into an area of entertainment and recreational boating, and has continued its development to include more opportunities for recreational use such as kayaking and paddleboarding. The key to the success of this area has been the partnerships that we've developed and are present here today. They include the City of Cleveland, Cuyahoga County, the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, the Metro Parks, U.S. Coast Guard, Lake Carriers Association, and the Port of Cleveland. What you'll hear today concerns the safety and enjoyment of boaters and recreational users, as well as information from our commercial partners. One step that the city, along with the U.S. Coast Guard and the Port of Cleveland, has taken to encourage safety is to mark the U.S. Coast Guard safety zones. By accurately marking the safety zones up and down the river, we can outline areas boaters should refrain from mooring in for their safety. These areas also show recreational users where they should avoid when commercial vessels are operating within the channel. I'll now turn it over to Lieutenant Commander Michael Dougherty, Commanding Officer from the Coast Guard's Marine Safety Unit, Cleveland.
Good morning. My name is Lieutenant Commander Mickey Dougherty. I currently have the privilege of serving, as was expressed earlier, as the Commanding Officer of the Marine Safety Unit here in Cleveland. It's an absolute privilege to be here today and with all of our partners standing behind me as we work to make sure that this boating season is a safe boating season and one that both our commercial partners and recreational users can enjoy. I'm just going to briefly touch on a few issues that, as a Coast Guard, we'd like to highlight, as there still are far too many casualties for folks when they're out there enjoying the lake and the river. First and foremost, simply have a personal flotation device, a PFD, a life jacket. You should know where it is on board your boat. There has to be one for each person that's on board, and they has to be of the right size, so which particularly highlights children's life jackets. There needs to be a life jacket that works for each member on board. You should know where it is, you should try it on, and that critical piece of safety equipment buys precious moments that if you're in the water, for our team to come out and effect a safe rescue. Next, don't drink and boat. Just like driving your car, you cannot drive under the influence or be consuming alcohol. It's the same with your vessel. You cannot be drinking and boating or under the influence of alcohol and boating. It is still the leading cause of all casualties that we have on the lake and the river is due to alcohol. So please take that into consideration. Next, as you can see behind me, we have a very small navigational channel and very large vessels that come through. Some of our boats that transit up are up to 700 feet, and you can see that there's very little room for those boats to make critical turns on the crooked river. So when you're out on the river, please stick to the sides, give our commercial partners as wide a berth as possible, and that, as was mentioned earlier, the safety zones are places you can never moor your boat. You can't tie up there, and they're especially dangerous when our commercial vessel partners are transiting through. So in conclusion, have a life jacket, know where it is, don't drink and boat, and be aware of where our commercial partners are as they transit up the river here. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Glenn Neckvissel with Lake Carriers Association.
Hello, my name is Glenn Neckvissel. I'm the Vice President of the Lake Carriers Association. We represent the U.S. flag vessel operators here on the Great Lakes. I joined the Great Lakes shipping industry in October of 1976. That's almost 42 years ago. And I think if I could turn the calendar back to then, you would be a pretty sure bet that there weren't going to be many people kayaking or paddleboarding on the Cuyahoga River. Where we're standing right now used to be some old warehouses. This river used to be the exclusive domain of freighters, barges, and tugs. But times have changed. It is now a shared waterway, and here at Lake Carriers Association we acknowledge that, and we work with the recreational community. We have a memorandum of understanding with the head of the Cuyahoga race that happens every September. We just signed a memorandum of understanding for the paddleboard race that will happen in a few weeks. The folks who are planning the Parade of Lights, we're in contact with them, and we're going to do our best to keep the boats out of the river for a few hours there. But, you know, we can never lose sight of the fact that this is still an industrial waterway. It's a shared waterway, but it is Cleveland's raw materials lifeline. We can move 10 million tons of cargo on this river in a year. And using the latest estimate for the city's population, 385,000 people, that means we are moving roughly 25 tons of cargo for every man, woman, and child in Cleveland. And these are important cargoes. Iron ore is the primary ingredient in steel. And that steel mill down at the end of the navigation section, 2,000 jobs there. The construction industry in this town depends on the limestone and the cement that we bring in. The salt mine there at the lakefront, they can sell to people and customers in Toronto, Milwaukee, wherever, because we have Great Lakes ships. So yes, this is a shared waterway, but we have to remember that it has an industrial role. The thing for people to recognize, as Mickey said, the ships that are in this river, they are big. Some of them are as long as the terminal tower is tall. Quite seriously, the H. Lee White, which is a vessel that delivers to the steel mill, she's 704 feet. The terminal tower is 709 feet. We set them on end. There they are. They're basically the same size. The other thing you have to recognize is ships cannot stop on a dime. If you're out in the lake and a ship is coming to Cleveland and they're going full speed, which for a boat of this size is 15 miles an hour, it can take a mile to bring that boat to a stop. And even here in the river, when you're only going 1.5 miles an hour, it still cannot stop quickly. The other issue you have to recognize is ships, there's not much maneuvering room in this river. So if somebody gets in the way, we really can't do a lot of maneuvering around here. So we just put out our annual safety news release, and Jim Ridge, if you want to hand that out to folks, if anybody wants it. We just go over the basic safety tips that will make it a safe summer here on the Great Lakes and on the Cuyahoga River. I'm not going to go through all of them, but know where the freighters are. You can use your marine radio and monitor channels 12 and 16. When ships are coming to Cleveland or when they're getting ready to leave a dock, they will make a security call. And then there are also apps that you can use. As Mickey said, have a personal flotation device. Probably the biggest thing is, though, just try to stay away from the boats. Again, the propellers on the stern there, the engines have 7,000 horsepower working behind them. So that is going to cause quite a disturbance. Same thing at the bow. We have called bow thrusters. They have like 800 horsepower. In the maritime industry, in the rules of the navigation, we kind of boil it down to what's called the big boat rule. The bigger boat always has the right of way, and it's not something because freighters are superior in any way. It's just a simple fact. The larger boat is the less maneuverable. So the bigger boat always has the way. If we all remember that, if we all make good seamanship and safety our primary commitment, we're going to have a safe summer on the river. Folks are going to have fun, and we're going to deliver a lot of cargo. Thank you, and now I'd like to introduce Dave Gutile from the Port of Cleveland.
Good afternoon, and thank you. I'm going to reiterate many of the things that Glenn just talked about and appreciate the partnership we have with many of the agencies standing behind me. As everybody said so far, this is a shared waterway. The port has always been concerned with both the environmental health of the river as well as the safety aspects of those who use it. As Glenn said, this waterway has up to 10 to 15 million tons of cargo that moves on it annually, and we need to make sure that the people that are using it from a recreational standpoint, which we love, especially with the redevelopment of the Flat Seas Bank and over here on the west side of the river, everybody uses it safely. The port has also been at the forefront of managing the health of the river with our debris harvester program, Flotsam and Jetsam. We've removed over 1.5 million pounds of debris from the river and the harbor itself. Many of that debris can be a safety hazard to both recreational and commercial vessels, and we try to manage that. As Glenn said, the size of the vessels is enormous when compared to some of the recreational vessels that are moving up and down the river itself. And just to give another example, some of the vessels that are transiting the river can carry up to the equivalent of 12,000 automobiles. The average automobile weighs about 2 tons. So when you're talking about a vessel the size of the terminal tower, which you can may be able to see in the background, and the weight that is carried on those vessels, as he said, they cannot stop quickly. So please, to the public who's using the waterway from a recreational standpoint, be mindful of the size of those vessels, make sure that we're using it properly, and make sure that we're safe and secure when moving over for those vessels and are in a spot that those vessels can navigate up and down the river safely as well. I will now turn it over to Chuck Stiver from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, and thank you and looking forward to talking later.
Good afternoon. I'm Lieutenant Chuck Stiver with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. It is an honor and a privilege to be with you today. I'd first like to thank the Mayor, the Public Safety Director, and Commander Dougherty for not only making this one of the best boating destinations on the Great Lakes, but also one of the safest. We appreciate, along with the Cuyahoga River Safety Task Force, their tireless efforts to promote boating safety in the greater Cleveland area. I'd like to reiterate a couple of the safety points that Commander Dougherty made early on. First thing, as a recreational boater in the Cleveland area, we would encourage you not just to pack your life jacket, but to wear it. It's one of the simplest things we can do, but yet one of the things that saves lives on a daily basis. So we encourage you not only have it with you, but have it on. And that's for all members, whether you're a paddle boarder, a kayaker, or a recreational powerboat or a sailboater, please wear your life jacket. Second thing is, carry a sound producing device. It's not only required by state law, it's also an important safety feature that many times is overlooked. We need to be able to get people's attention, both not only for the inland nav rules, but also in time of emergency, so we can draw attention and get the help we need. The waters are still cold this time of year on the Great Lakes. We would encourage, especially the paddle boarders and the kayakers in the smaller boats that tend to tip over and be tippy, to wear some type of thermal protection. We don't want them to suffer the ill effects of hypothermia. This time of year, that can be a killer. So we want to make sure and encourage them to use thermal protection. If you're going to be a frequent boater in the Cuyahoga River, we would encourage you to carry a marine band radio. They do make submersible marine band radios for the smaller hand-powered vessels. That way you know the location of the larger freighters. They are going to do security calls as they go up and down the river, and that's important for you to know where they are. The second thing we would like you to do in relationship to that is know where the safer passing zones are at. Areas, if you are a paddler in the Cuyahoga River, that you can duck in and seek protection from those larger boats as they pass by. The last thing I'd like to encourage you to do is file a float plan. Let people know where you're going to go boating, where you're going to launch at, where you're going to go, how long you're going to be gone, when you expect to return, and if you don't show back up, who to call. We don't know to come looking for you if we don't know you're missing. So it's important that you file a float plan just to be safe. Again, we encourage you to have a great summer. We hope you take great advantage of the city of Cleveland, all it has to offer in the boating community. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to Captain Simon.
We've talked a lot about the development of the Cuyahoga River and the opportunities for enjoyment, both in the Flats area and the Cuyahoga River. But we also want everyone to be mindful that our priority is everyone's safety and enjoyment, especially when the larger commercial traffic is moving within the river. Officers during the summer will be working with boaters so they can enjoy the river while being safe around the commercial traffic, conscious of the navigable channel, and also areas of safe mooring. Part of being safe is following the rules of the road, or in this case, the waterway. And we would like boaters and other recreational users to be aware of a few of the bigger rules. As Commander Dougherty mentioned, operating or control of a vessel while under the influence. Also, reckless operation, such as excessive speeds, particularly in the no-wake zones. And interference with navigation, mooring in the navigable channel or mooring up in a Coast Guard safety zone. while we will make efforts to work with boaters enjoying the river, if it becomes prudent for the safety of everyone, the officers will be enforcing these navigable rules. There is a concerted effort on the part of all the partners here today to ensure that all users of the river are both safe and can enjoy the surroundings. The lake and the river are enormous resources to the region, both for industry and recreational use, and we want everybody to remain safe. Members behind me will be available for comment when we're finished. Thank you for the attendance, and we look forward to a vibrant river and all of the positives that come with it. Thank you.